welcome. Today is Saturday, 27th June 2026. We are back with your weekly news digest here at Sararights TV, the #1 leading television in West Nile, particularly Arua. So we bring you what transpired over the week on the papers. I am Galadino Ajus.
And I am Florence.
Thank you. We have the copies. I have the New Vision.
While I have the Daily Monitor.
In the New Vision, the trending story on top here is Moyingo appointed acting education minister. President Yoweri Museveni has appointed John Chrysostom Moyingo as acting minister of education and sports following the prolonged absence of First Lady Janet Kataha Museveni, who has been unwell since reappointment as minister on May 29th. The appointment was announced yesterday by the Special Presidential Assistant for Press and Mobilization and Deputy Press Secretary Farouk Kirunda. The exercise of the power vested in the President under Article 991 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the President has appointed Moyingo as the acting Minister of Education and Sports in the absence of substantive minister. The statement issued yesterday reads, "The appointment takes immediate effect. Moyingo, who serves as Minister of State for Higher Education, was approved by Parliament on June 2nd and sworn in at State House Entebbe on June 8th. His appointment is intended to fill the leadership gap left by Ms. Museveni's absence. The First Lady did not appear before Parliament's Appointment Committee for vetting and was also absent during the swearing-in of ministers, creating vacuum at the ministry. The development comes a day after President Museveni disclosed that the First Lady had been ill since March. As acting minister, Moyingo is expected to oversee key programs in the education sector, including infrastructure development, teacher training, and higher education reforms. His appointment builds on years of experience in education leadership. During his tenure in government, he has championed the construction of new secondary schools, the upgrading of vocational institutions, and the strengthening of the student loan scheme. More to know about Moyingo. Moyingo was born on February 22nd, 1960 to John Chrysostom Skede and Victoria Nichwala of Kakola village in Bamunak County, Luero District. Moyingo attended Majumba Primary School, Kisubi Seminary, and Makerere College School before joining Makerere University in 1983. He graduated in 1986 with a Bachelor's of Science and a Diploma in Education. He later earned a Master of Arts in Education Management in 1996 and a Doctor of Philosophy in 2004, both from Makerere University. Moyingo has also served as Minister of State for Higher Education since June 6, 2026. Before that, he was Minister of State for Primary Education from March 1st, 2025 to June 5th, 2026 in politics. He represented Bamunanika County in Parliament on the National Resistance Movement ticket. However, he lost the seat in the 2021 general elections to his former campaign manager and personal assistant, Robert Setoleko, who contested under the National Unity Platform. While serving at the Matters Secondary School, Namgongo, Moyingo met Rosemary Namaingo, who he married in 1992. The couples had 6. The family owns state high schools, which now comprise 4 campuses with more than 4,500 students that also run their branches of Seta Junior School and 2 kindergarten sections before joining national politics. Moyingo served as Minister of Education in the Buganda Kingdom, where he was twice the best performing minister.
The other most trending news of this week is about Lukwago's bail. Why the state is against Lukwago's bail. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has asked the court not to grant bail to four-time presidential candidates Dr. Kizza Besigye's lawyer, Erias Lukwago. The state adds that former Kampala Lord Mayor Lukwago's charges of misprision of treason are grave and raise national security concern. In written submissions filed before the Makinde Chief Magistrate Court on Friday, the prosecution said Lukwago, who is also the People's Front for Freedom president, allegedly knew of a plot to overthrow the government but failed to report it to the relevant authorities. The court is being presided over by Mikende Court Chief Magistrate Sarah Basmera. Lukwago is expected to reappear in court on Monday, which has passed to know his bail fate. The offences related to treason have far-reaching implications for national security because they involve allegations connected to attempt to overthrow government. Senior State Attorney Judith Nyamwiza submitted, who is being assisted by Carol Opiah. Nyamwiza said such offences have the potential to destabilize the country, trigger violence, cause loss of life, and disrupt the economy. Citing previous judicial decisions, the prosecution invited the court to balance the constitutional rights of the accused with the need to safeguard society and protect national security. According to the prosecution, Lukwago concealed information about all alleged plot by his client, Besigye, and his aide Obaid Lutale to commit treason. The prosecution further alleges that Lukwago withheld information from government authorities regarding the alleged involvement of Joel Wakaima and Frank Tuhahire Atukunda in the purported treason plot. Lukwago is among the lawyers presenting Besigye and Lutale, who are charged with treason and misprision of treason alongside Captain Dennis Oyaola of the Uganda People's Defence Force, attached to the armored brigade. The offences attract a maximum sentences of death upon conviction. Lukwago is being presented by lawyers Midrat Segona, Sam Muizi, Mulindwa Muhammad, Sereko Abubakar, Sekanjogo Lawrence Kabuye, and Matthias Mpuga. Lukwago's bail application is partially based on claim that he suffered from hypertension, gastritis, respiratory complications, and spinal-related health challenges requiring specialized treatment. However, the prosecution adds that the medical evidence before court showed that Lukwago had previously undergone a successful spinal surgery and that no evidence had been presented to demonstrate that the condition had recurred. The prosecution also maintained that the Uganda Prison Service has qualified medical personnel capable of managing his health condition. According to the prosecution, the doctor and Mashizon Bay Hospital have not concluded that the applicant's ailment cannot be managed while he is in custody, although Lukwago adds that he is of advanced age, 56 years old. The prosecution submitted that under the bail guidelines for Court of Judicia, advanced age is defined as 60 years and above.
In politics, NRM's Aida Nabaingo regained Kalangala Woman Member of Parliament City. After weeks of intense campaigns, the National Resistance Movement NRM regained the Kalangala District Woman Member of Parliament seat from the National Unity Platform NUP in the just concluded by-elections. In the by-elections that was held on Wednesday, Aida Nambaingo of the NRM secured victory with 12,642 votes. She was followed by NUP's candidate Irene Nampala, who garnered 7,474 votes. Independent candidates Serif Babire received 244 votes. Helen Flavia Nagawa received 217 votes, and Agnes Nasuna garnered 34 votes. The results were declared by Kangala District Electoral Commission Returning Officer Ronald Agaba at 2:53 a.m. on Thursday in the presence of Justice Simon Babekama, the Commissioner, Chairperson, and other commissioners. Nabaingo, who represented the district in the Parliament in the 10th Parliament in 2015 and 2021, thanked the people of Kalangala for the trust and confidence they placed in her, pledging to serve them with dedication, integrity, and honesty. Kalangala has many problems, especially in the health sector, unlike other districts. Kalangala has its own challenges. People from distant islands like Mazinga have to burn a lot of fuel to reach the government health center in Kalangala. The entire district has only 2 health centers, force, and no hospital. Health is going to be one of my priorities, she said. Analysts had expected NUP to defeat the seat, which fell vacant in April after the death of its member Helen Nachmuli, but surprisingly the NRM won it. However, the results were not surprising because the late Nachmuli had won the January Member of Parliament election with a slim margin, garnering 1,364 votes. Nachimuli won with 10,609 votes against Nabaingo's 9,245 out of the 19,854 total valid votes cast. Unfortunately, months after her victory, Nachimuli died during surgery at Alexander Medical Center in Kampala on April 19, 2026, triggering a by-election. On June 10th to 11th, the commission nominated 5 candidates for this seat, but the major contest was between the NUP and NRM candidates. Campaigns commenced on June 12th and ended on June 22nd, with the 2 sides drawing bigger at each other, despite complaints from NUP leaders such as Joel Senyon and Kampala Capital City Authority Speaker John Sebufu. The East insisted that the by-election was peacefully. Senyon said after boarding the ferry to the Iceland district, the people in charge were ordered to take him back to the mainland so that he does not reach Kalangala to offer support to his candidates. Saif Boof had complained about the presence of security operatives in numberless cars. However, Bebe Kama assured them that the elections would proceed smoothly and transparently. Addressing the journalists before the by-election, Bebe Kama appealed for peace among Icelanders and other party supporters who had come to the Iceland to campaign for their party candidates. My major concern in these by-elections are the vehicles whose number plates were concealed, and on this I appealed to security agencies to investigate what the purpose of these vehicles, said while Naboingo won. Since the start of the campaigns on June 11th, the NRM had maintained strong presence on the ground with leaders such as NRM Head of Mobilization Rosemary Senidi, James Kinobe, and Central Region Vice Chairperson Haruna Kasulu camping in the district to mobilize support. The three leaders moved Iceland to Iceland, mobilizing grassroots structures to deliver votes for NRM's Nabaingo. District leaders speak out in this. The local district leader, such as the LC5 chairperson Agnes Lukun Pajumbe, MPs Will Logolobi and Caroline Namoyenda Birunt played a big role in mobilizing votes for Nabainga. NUP National Mobilizer Habib Bowembo did not accept the results that were announced by the EC, claiming that there was rigging at some polling stations. Some of our supporters were intimidated by the security officials, he said. NUP Deputy Secretary General Isa Kabanda said the official communication about their loss will be delivered from the head office in Kavule tomorrow.
Uganda Ebola countdown collapses. Uganda's hope of securing an Ebola-free declaration have suffered a setback after health authorities confirmed a new important Ebola case on June 21st, effectively resetting the country's countdown towards ending the outbreak. The latest infection, which brings the cumulative number of Ebola cases to 20, was confirmed after Uganda had gone 16 days without registering any new case, raising concerns about the continued risk of cross-border transmission despite significant gains made in containing the deadly Budibungoyo strain. Health experts said the imported case highlight the vulnerabilities that remain in Uganda's response, particularly porous border crossing, the risk of imported infection, and the need to maintain which infections can easily be introduced, said Professor Kalebu. He added that recurrence of Ebola outbreak in the region demonstrate the urgent protective equipment and continuous training of health workers must be maintained even when case numbers decline, he added. Anyone who develops symptoms is identified early, isolated, and tested before transmitting the virus to other people. Border remain the country's biggest vulnerability due to continuous population, he said. Authorities also intensified screening at airport, border crossing, and other points of entry, while strengthening infection prevention and control measures in health facilities, schools, and communities considered to be at high risk. We have been very intentional in extensive public awareness and risk communication campaigns, using the media community leaders and local structures to disseminate accurate information, combat misinformation, and encourage early. Dr. Sabainze. These are the numbers. The latest Ministry of Health figures as of June 23rd show that out of the 831 contacts linked to Ebola patients, 9 remain under active follow-up, while 814 have completed the mandatory 21-day follow-up period.
Still on New Vision, government allocates shillings 100 billion more for cattle compensation in northern Uganda. The government has allocated an additional shillings 100 billion to accelerate compensation for households that lost cattle during years of insecurity in the Acholi, Lango, and Teso sub-regions. Addressing journalists on the priorities and plans of the Office of the Prime Minister for the coming financial year 2026-2027 at the OPM headquarters in Kampala, Permanent Secretary Alex Kakoza said the new allocation is intended to speed up compensation under one of the country's largest reinstitution programs. The additional funding comes on top of the shillings 80 billion allocated last year for the first phase of compensation. Kahoza said approximately 1.6 million people qualify for compensation under the broader program. As you can see, what we are covering now is only a fraction of the total number. To accelerate implementation, the government has allocated another shillings 100 billion in the coming financial year, which will enable us to cover more beneficiaries, he said. Despite the additional funding, Kakoza cautioned that compensating all eligible beneficiaries will take time. It may take even 7 or 8 years to complete, but the program is on and we are making progress, he said. The first phase of the compensation program received shillings 80 billion, targeting benefits approximately 16,000 beneficiaries. To date, we have paid more than half of those people. We pay as their verified data comes in, he said. Kakoza said the cabinet directed that each beneficiary receives shillings 5 million under the compensation arrangement. The compensation program was transferred to the OPM last year as the government sought to harmonize livestock compensation restocking interventions that had previously been implemented under different arrangements. Beneficiaries identification is being conducted through the Parish Development Model digital platform and is heavily relied on local leadership structure to ensure transparency and accountability, said Kakoza. He explained that local leaders play a central role in identifying beneficiaries before multiple verification processes are undertaken. I assure you that the process is transparent and involves several layers of verification before payment is made. The compensation program follows guidelines issued by the President Yoweri Museveni in June. In November last year, Cabinet subsequently approved guidelines covering 33 districts in affected regions. The initiative is intended to help households rebuild livelihoods and recover from decades of economic disruption caused by insecurity and cattle rustling that devastated livestock holdings across northern and eastern Uganda. Beyond compensation, the OPM outlined plans to expand resettlement efforts for communities displaced by the recurring landslides in eastern Uganda. Kakoza said government policy provides that families affected by landslides receive 2 acres of land and shillings 10 million to facilitate resettlement and livelihood restoration. In Soroti, 9 people from each of the 54 parishes have been compensated so far. In that, he said the new phase seeks to move beyond of intervention and instead support long-term economic transformation. The purpose of this project is to build a livelihood which want to help people earn income, improve their lives, and increase household earnings, he said. Kakoza added that programs will leverage existing but underutilized economic infrastructure. For example, we have idle capacity in northern Uganda. There are oil processing plants that have never been fully utilized. We shall work with local leaders and managers of those facilities to ensure our livelihood programs are linked to existing local capacity, said. Kahoza also revealed that recruitment for the program has attracted overwhelming interest. We advertised and the deadline for submission was last Friday. By then, he said he received 6,000 applications for fewer than 40 positions. He said Julius Arugu, the project officer in charge of community outreach at the 9 governmental organization Public Affairs Center Uganda, welcomed the additional funding, describing it as a demonstration of the government's commitment to resolving the long-standing issues of the cattle compensation in Teso and other affected regions.
Teenage pregnancy, the invisible. Raped, defiled, and abandoned, such is the grim account that expectant teenage mothers offer health workers at Kawempe National Referral Hospital in Uganda's capital, Kampala. The facility opened doors for its tailored antenatal clinic for teenagers in 2021. And the word about it appears to have gained traction among girls, with the pregnant ones checking in record numbers every week, mainly to seek abortion services. However, the public hospital does not terminate pregnancy because it is illegal under Uganda laws. Instead, the young girls aged 12 to 18 are counseled and, together with caregivers, taught the recommended feeding, personal physical care, and pain management techniques during pregnancy, as well as the required preparation for childbirth and how to care for new sexual crime. In 2025, where girls, medics say, rising case of young girl not waylaid her while returning home from evening lesson at her school. The teenager never alerted her mother, the police, or local council officials. Investigators say the lapse of time and unwillingness of the victim to lodge a complaint dim the prospect of tracing the suspects and bringing them to book. Another victim of sexual assault, Shamila Nabuzira, not real name, also aged 15, has dropped out of school in primary 6 at school off Bombo Road after finding out she was pregnant. A resident of Katanga, Wandaga, in the outskirts of Kampala city, Nabazire does not know the father of her unborn child. Why? Because she says she was raped, never made an alarm, and the sexual assaulter fled. Katanga is low-bed shanty settlement sandwiched between Uganda's intellectual powerhouse of Makerere University and the County's National Referral Hospital on Mulago Hill. However, in this ghetto residence, petty thieving, burglary, drug abuse, and commercial sex work are common. The population is large transit. Indeed, it is unsurprising to encounter a new neighbor in the morning, different from the one who occupied the room the previous evening, making reconciliation of who is resident or passerby elusive. It is in this complex setting that twin misfortunes struck Nabuzira. First, the father abandoned her and two siblings in a rent single room in this crime-plagued slum. There is no word on the whereabouts of their mother. The children eventually ran behind on rent. Then their neighbor, fondly called Aunt Sarah, police stepped into shelter them. Pony noticed something unusual about Nabazira's craving, prompting her to take the teenager to Kawempe National Referral Hospital for pregnancy checkup. Teenagers, a second mischance resulting in a drop out of school without certainty that the break from formal learning will be temporary. Medics at facility also handled the case of Irene Nashuti, not real name, who told his newspaper that she did not for months know that she was expecting until pregnancy test. Her paternal grandmother, with whom she lived in Janda Namugongo in Wakiso district, had noticed unusual physical change on her 16-year-old granddaughter, but for an unexplained reason ignored them. In late February 2026, the girl left Janda and relocated to Lukuli, a Kampala suburb. Her observant host and maternal grandfather wasted no time. She took the teenager to a clinic where she was confirmed pregnant. Suddenly, Natusi says she does not know the father. For the true and many in a similar trap, seeking abortion has turned out to be first option. Without income, they do not have any means of raising child, let alone ably taking care of pregnancy in society that judges them as immoral rather than victims of sex or all predators. Elizabeth Mutisi is the official in charge of teenage clinic at Kawempe National Referral Hospital, told the Daily Monitor in an interview in April that 15 to 20 pregnant teenagers among dozens they receive every Thursday. The weekly clinic they want abortion. Most of them come here escorted either by their grandmothers or female friend for abortion. When we ask them why they want to abort, they claim they do not know the men responsible for the pregnancy, she noted. Subsequently, the girls are cancelled and talked of seeking to kill the unborn babies and enroll for antenatal. Their personal details such as name, gender, marital status, education level, tribe, religion, telephone contact, residential address, and next of kin are taken according to the record of Peter Joseph Okalevo.
Thank you. We all know that the rate of teenage pregnancy and early marriages now is on high gear. So what best can we do to avoid this is a big question to our viewers and the followers. On our new vision, today, government ends paper-based recruitment. The government has commenced the rollout of an electronic recruitment system in local governments in a move aimed at eliminating paperwork, reducing human contact in recruitment processes, and improving service delivery across the public service. The Public Service Commission yesterday announced that the online recruitment and appeals management information system will be piloted in 20 districts and cities before the 2026-2027 financial year ends next. This was during a training of trainers program for national trainers at the Uganda ICT Institute Hub in Nakawa, Kampala. The trainees included officials from Permanent Public Service Commission, Health Service Commission, Education Service Commission, and the Ministry of Local Government, who will subsequently train district and city officials on the use of the new system. Speaking during the training, Ruth Asime, the Public Service Commission Principal Human Resource Officer, said the system was developed after years of oversight, monitoring, and stakeholder engagement revealed key challenges aligned with manual recruitment and appeals management. The online recruitment and appeals management information system was developed to address the growing workload in district service commissions, where recruitment processes are still largely paper-based. The volume of applications received for public service jobs has become difficult to manage manually, Asimwe said. She explained the positions such as human resource officers and primary school teachers often attract thousands of applicants, hence overwhelming district service commission secretariats. The current arrangement requires applicants to physically travel long distances to submit applications. District service commissions are burdened with handling thousands of hard copy applications, submissions, and appeals, which slow down service delivery, she said. Asume said the Public Service Commission sought government funding for the project through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development after establishing the urgent need for an electronic solution. The funding was approved and the implementation commenced during the current financial year. We are in now at the stage of transferring knowledge from the system developer to the trainers, who will support the rollout in districts and cities, said. Asume added that the rollout will start with 20 pilot districts and cities this year. The pilot areas include the Kabarole, Sembabule, Kisoro, Boyende, Buikwe, Bulambuli, Soroti, Napak, Amoro, Yumbe, Koboko, and Kalangala, as well as the cities of Hoima, Gulu, Mbale, Masaka, and Arua. Asume said the selected pilot districts and cities were identified through a nationwide readiness assessment. He added that the selection criteria included having fully constituted district or city service commissions with substantive secretaries, at least 3 members who are computer literate.
Is on it. The police headquarters at Naguru in Kampala were yesterday filled with tension and drama when local government minister Balaam Barugahara appealed to 25 people whose DNA sample were submitted for testing to prepare for the best or the worst. As the hour of reckoning drew closer, tension kept building as pathologists from both the police Forensic Laboratory and the Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratory assembled to release a long-awaited DNA result for the 25 people whose mothers claimed were shared by deceased Kadongo Kamu music legend Paulo Job Cafero. Samples were taken from 25 out of the 35 who had originally claimed Cafero's paternity, but Barugahara said the rest vanished at the last hour for the unknown reasons. Even out of 25, some did not turn up yesterday at the police headquarters where a large tent was provided for the friends, relatives, and people who claimed were Cafero's biological, who kept encouraging them to remain firm and avoid conducting media interviews to avoid controversy. At about 11:30 a.m., after sensing the tension was reaching a crescendo, Barugahara asked all the candidates to confirm whether they need privacy or prefer the result to be released in the presence of the media. Most of them agreed that they were ready for the outcome, paving the way for the pathologist to release the result. Girls sat in separate groups, most often led by an old woman, either an auntie, a former girlfriend of the late singer, or an elderly man, probably an uncle who turned up to give support and encourage to the candidates. When asked for information about fellow siblings, most of the candidates often feigned ignorance and often looked at others as strangers. "I don't know. Go and ask them. I have just seen them here. I know nothing about them," one will respond when asked about another person. One candidate, a light-skinned young woman who later introduced herself as Margaret Cafero, covered her face and remained isolated as she claimed she had submitted her sample. Eddie Mukubi, with a different clan name, sat alone and was dressed in a long white tunic, unbothered by others' people conversation. His relative, an elderly man, said he had been given a name from the Lugev clan, but all believe he was Cafero's son. He was the last to submit his DNA sample. Understanding the result, earlier, the minister asked the pathologist to elaborate to the candidates and Cafero's relatives and friends on how the DNA test is done. They went through the steps and what it meant, but voices continued to build up in the audience as candidates and their relatives felt they were being delayed in receiving the results. One of the obvious cases of Cafero's children was called Paulo Cafero, who insisted that he came from Owino Market. He had a long beard and kept confidently moving around. To most people, he really resembled the late artist. When the minister asked any of the candidates to say something on the podium, the already tensed up candidates kept silent in their seats until Paulo Cafero volunteered. He staggered and picked up the microphone and thanked Barugahara for helping them to go through the process. When the minister asked him to sing, he sampled them by miming the late Cafero's famous song, Dipo Nazigala, to the amusement of those who believe he was one of their biological children. Now the shocking announcement. However, to the shock of many, only 4 out of 25 candidates are related to Kafero, the legend. The acting director of Forensic Service at Uganda Police Force, Dr. Andrew Mubiru, read phonics. This is strong genetic evidence for the proposition that Prince Job Kafero is a biological father of the following person: Kafero Benedicto, also Nurse Dube, Simon Peter Kafero, Kafero Thomas, and Elizabeth Nagawa. The announcement was followed by long illusions, then deep silence as the audience waited for more in vain, which created doubt from the audience, including Kafero's former friend. It was at his moment that the minister asked the representatives from DGAL, whose result matched those already mentioned. Sensing that the audience was not convinced, Barugahara emphasized to the audience that the DNA result indicates that Kafero left only 4 children. The same names were read out to the audience, and this was again followed by jubilations.
Thank you. This story is so touching. We are getting this from the Sararights television, right here in Arua, Siri. The story about Kafero's DNA was released by the police forensic laboratory and the government laboratory, where we have confirmed that late Kafero has left 4 children out of the claimed 35. That does it for today's weekly news digest. Dear viewers, we are live. You can get us on our social media platforms like
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Even we have our official website, that is www.sararightstvLiveStudioThis.com.
It has been Dinohotic AJ Galadino
and Letasi Florence.
Nice weekend.
Love you all.
Bye bye.